Hi everyone, the Partial Prophet here. Thanks for tuning in. So I wanted to remind you that we know in part and we prophesy in part, and then when Jesus comes, we will see fully. So today I have a short little video called Out of Time, Prophecy and Back to the Future. Um, so um, um, so I wanted to talk about this movie, and actually it's a series of 3 movies. And it was put out, like the first one was put out in 1985. And it's kind of interesting because I think it was something that God was using to send us some prophetic messages, because there are a lot of prophetic messages kind of hidden in these 3 movies. And so I don't really have time to unpack it all right now. So I'm just kind of focus on just a small little part in this movie. But I wanted to talk about just really quickly of why would God use this movie to give, to send some prophetic messages. Okay, well, we are definitely in a day and age where people do not read the Bible. And I definitely think God wants to be heard. I definitely think that even if people are not following God, that he can still turn their heart however he pleases, because that's actually a verse in the Bible. And so I believe he led the people making this movie to do things a certain way that ended up being hidden prophecies. Okay. And so right here we see this picture of, okay, so in the movie we have Marty McFly is walking by the sign of the Twin Pines Mall. Okay. And what's interesting is the time on the Twin Pines Mall was 1:16 a.m. Okay, was when he was walking past the sign. And so over here on the right, I turned it around so you could see this better. So it's 9/11. Um, you know, um, and then I thought too, I was gonna see, since I had to turn it around, like, okay, so does the AM, it kind of says like, you could have say that it's WA, like, maybe that connects to Washington or something like that. Um, so, or wait, I guess that wouldn't really be an A. Anyways, so, but we definitely see that 9/11. Okay. Um, and then what's interesting, so what happens, so we definitely see a 9/11 connection in this movie, because what we had is that the mall was Twin Pines Mall, and then Marty McFly goes back into the past and ends up running over one of the pines of the man who was trying to start breeding pines. And so then when he comes back to the present, it's the mall is changes the name to Lone Pines Mall. Okay, so we see this 9/11 connection because on 9/11 in America, in New York, the Twin Towers, they fell down, and then they became, the One World Tower, One World Trade Center, the One Tower. So definitely a 9/11 connection. And I'll talk about really what that means on one of the other slides. But I definitely think in the movie, we kind of have Marty and Doc, I think, are like messianic figures. Because it's kind of like Marty goes and he saves his family. Okay, he saves his family from dysfunction, basically. And because of the stuff that he did in the past, he makes them better people. So you have that. And then, Doc, too, could also definitely be a messianic type figure, and, because we almost kind of get this picture with both Okay, so like first of all, Marty McFly, if you look at his name, um, you know, like I always think of like heaven and flying and stuff like that connects to the Messiah, because he's on a higher spiritual plane than the rest of us. Um and then Marty too is like 5 letters, Marty, and then McFly too, I think is 5 letters, Mcfly. So five is definitely connected to the Messiah. Um and then let's see. Anything else I want to talk about generally? So, okay, so just the movie, just a quick overview of the movie itself. It's a trilogy, okay, which is very interesting. And I kind of think that the first movie kind of connects to um, like maybe the time of Obama. The second movie kind of connects to the time of Trump. And then the third movie would kind of connect to the time of Messiah. Um, and then because like in the first movie, um it's just kind of, like if you just have Marty in his 1985 lifestyle, um you know that was, just kind of what life was like with Obama. um I mean, more or less, but then in the second movie we had where, oh, I think I have a picture of that, so I'll talk about that when we get to that picture. um so anyways, but also just for time frame purposes, so you know how when they go, Marty and Doc, they go into the future, and they go into the future to 20 October 21st, um 2015. um and so one of the things that I wanted to point out was, okay, so in 1985 was when Reagan was president. Okay, so I think that's kind of interesting because when you have the seven kings in Revelation, I think it connects the seven presidents. And so I think maybe what God is saying with these movies is, he's showing us that we start counting the seven kings with Reagan. Okay. Um, and then they go, so Doc goes into the future in 2015. And so I think if you take, so 1985, you kind of have 5 and you have an 8. Because what's interesting is if you take October 2015, or if you take October 2015 to, oh wait, maybe this doesn't work. I thought maybe it worked. I thought you could take 5 years and 8 months and add it to October 21st and come up with June 2020. Here, wait, I'm going to write this down and see if it works. Okay, so October 21st, 2015. Oh, see, it doesn't work, does it? Because it takes us to 2020. Okay, so I was wrong about that. I was thinking maybe that was, God was saying, because I always thought it was kind of interesting, like if God was going to do something prophetical, why did he have them go to October 21st, 2015? But what's interesting about it is that the 21st, we see a lot of connections with 21 to Trump. Okay. And then anyways, so there's probably more, there's probably some more significance, to 2015. Oh, but what is kind of interesting with 2015 is that was when the Cubs, okay, so in the movie, they had the Cubs winning the World Series, and they were actually, I think they were off by a year, because I think the Cubs, didn't win until 2016, I think is what it was. And then, but it was very kind of interesting that the Cubs won, because there was kind of that whole time frame when the Cubs won of kind of like the underdogs winning. Anyways, so so that's all kind of interesting. So then, okay, so in the first movie, so I want to talk about this because this connects to 9/11 and the two towers and stuff like that. And so actually at the end of the movie, so this is when Doc sends Einstein, like he sends him 1 minute into the future or 1 minute into the past. I can't remember which. So that's what this picture is from. But actually, at the end of the movie, when Doc sends Marty, back into the future, you actually can see a 9. It looks like a 9 on the Western Auto, on the left-hand side of Doc. It looks like a 9, and then if you take the two flames, they look like 11. Okay, so you see that repeat of the 9/11. So definitely very interesting. And then, so, um, so what's interesting is I think we have kind of like a short little messianic prophecy in just the short little time frame of you have Doc's, puts Einstein in the car, and then he, sends him into the future or whatever. And Marty thinks that Einstein got fried. Okay. But then it's like you see a resurrection. Oh, well, and then what happens is, so then you have the two burning tire flames. Okay. And then you see the license plate fell off the car. And what does the license plate says? It says out of time. Okay. So I think this picture right here is a very, very, very prophetical picture. Okay. Because I think what God is telling us is that you are out of time when you see the pillar on the left burning and the pillar on the right burning. Okay. And so basically that connects to Babylon as fallen. Okay. The two pillars have fallen. Okay. And so, because what I believe is that the two pillars of God are, America and Israel. And so when we see America burning and then when we see Israel burning, we are out of time. Okay. And so, so we saw that in 9/11 where the northern tower fell and the southern tower fell. Okay. And then actually the seventh tower fell or whatever it was, whatever the other tower was. Which would be a picture of the nations. Let's see. What does it say about the other tower? Yeah. World Trade Center 7 is also destroyed. Okay. So that could be a picture of the rest of the nations falling. So let's see, what else can I say about this? So I think we can say that we're getting pretty close to being out of time because we've already seen America burning. And, and what we're waiting for is, Israel. Israel's going to get attacked by its enemies. And then, and then the world basically would be out of time because, then we'll be moving into the Messianic era. Okay, and so I wanted to point this out. Okay, so this is the Trump Tower. And I don't remember what year this happened. But there was a fire that broke out on the 50th floor of Trump's Tower this is New York City. Okay. And it was very kind of eerily, I mean, this happened after 9/11. But it had some eerie, it just was kind of similar to 9/11. Okay. And because you saw the fire and the smoke, um and then like things were like falling out of the windows during this fire. um and then like the firemen sort of had the same problem too of like how do you put out this fire. And then the blaze was broke out on the 50th floor of the tower. And so um can you see kind of a connection to the two flames? Okay, so I'll go back to the two flames. Okay, and this isn't even a really good picture because they look like they're converging when they're actually parallel. um Although that could be pretty prophetical because that could be a picture of, I mean, we have, God's going to bring together Jew and Gentile, in the Messianic era. So, but anyways, so there's a connection with the fires on the two sides, you know, um, and I didn't know. I was trying to figure out like maybe what the 50th floor would be connected to, prophetically speaking. And I definitely think it has to do with so with 1335, I think the one connects to could connect to the coronavirus shutdown that we have for 40 days. And then the 3 would be the two different time frames of 30 days. And so the first 30 days was, the Trump protesters. The second 30 days was the Black Lives Matter rioters. And then I think, I mean, if I'm right, we'll have to see what happens. Then we move into the Messianic era, which is the 5, connects to the 5. So the 5, it also talks about it connects to time times and half a time or the dividing a time. But 5 is also connects to the Messiah. So I think what God could be saying in this picture is, if we see the burning on the left pillar and the burning on the right pillar, we're moving into the 5 time frame. And so really to understand this, what we need to do is read the Samson story. Okay, so this is in Judges 16, and it says, now the lords of the Philistines. Okay, wait, I can't remember. Did I finish saying about how? Okay, so with this story, Marty, thought Einstein, was that Doc had, vaporized Einstein. And then what we see like a minute later is that Einstein, um, he comes back like he's resurrected. Okay. So very prophetical because we're going to see, even when America and Israel are burning, God is going to resurrect. He's going to rebuild the tabernacle of David. Okay, he's going to resurrect these two countries. He's going to rebuild them, okay, in the Messianic era. So just in this short little, 2-minute clip, we see kind of a prophetical picture, okay? And so, if you have the movie, go take it out and just watch this short little clip with Einstein, the dog, okay, in the first movie. Okay, so let's read about Samson. So it says, now the Lord of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon their god and to rejoice, for they said, our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hands. When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, our God has given our enemy into our hands, even the destroyer of our country, who has slain many of us. It so happened when they were in high spirits that they said, call for Samson, that he may amuse us. So they called for Samson from the prison, and he entertained them. And they made him stand between the pillars. Then Samson said to the boy who was holding his hand, let me feel the pillars on which the house rests, that I may lean against them. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there. and about 3,000 men and women were on the roof, looking on while Samson was amusing them. Then Samson called to the Lord and said, O Lord God, please remember me, and please strengthen me just this time, O God, that I may at once be avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Samson grasped the 2 middle pillars on which the house rested and braced himself against them, the one with his right hand and the other with his left. And Samson said, Let me die with the Philistines. And he bent with all his might, so that the house fell on the lords and all the people who were in it. So the dead whom he killed at his death were more than those whom he killed in his life. Then his brothers and all his father's household came down, took him, brought him up, and buried him between Zorah and Estaol in the tomb of Manoah, his father. Thus he had judged Israel 20 years. Okay, so what I believe is that Samson is Trump. It's a picture of Trump, okay? And so what we have is the lords of the Philistines, they assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god. Okay, so that, is a picture of the Black Lives Matter riots. And then, so it says, when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, Our God has given our enemy into our hands. Okay, so that's really kind of what happened was on, what was it, May 26th, God, really allowed, for 1 hour, he gave the Black Lives Matter rioters an opportunity, he really kind of gave them power for an hour of judgment. I think it's going to be 30 days, but, God is the one that, raises up kings and takes them down according to his purposes, and so even though Trump's still around, it's kind of like there was a power shift to the Black Lives Matter people, okay? But we're also going to see this, happen even more so after the Messiah comes and warns, gives us a 40-day warning about the destruction of America. And so we see in the story, it's kind of interesting because, Samson says, Let me die with the Philistines. That is what's going to happen, is we're going to have, kind of the Messiah's going to leave, and, we're going to have Trump's people and Obama's people are all going to kind of like fall together, I don't know, like they fight each other. I think it's going to be sheer chaos, maybe. But I also think too, what's kind of interesting is that, okay, so we have Samson holding the 2 pillars, okay? And so like I said, the 2 pillars are, America and Israel. And we definitely are, I definitely think with Trump is that, he, because of his behavior, he's going to cause the downfall of America and the downfall of Israel. Okay. So let's see. And then it says, it's kind of interesting because you got 3,000 men and women were on the roof looking on while Samson was amusing them. So, assuming these 3,000 people died, so that's a connection to 9/11. Okay. And then, so, okay. What's interesting that it says about him, it says, so the dead whom he killed at his death was more than those whom he killed in his life. Okay. So what's interesting about that is that, I talked about in one of my other videos about how Ephraim, they were trained archers. Okay, but Trump never wanted to use our military while he was president. Okay, and so, and he didn't even really use the military power, with to deal with the rioters in our country, you know. Um, and then especially too, like, Trump wasn't willing to, he didn't want to go to war with Iran. He didn't want to go to war with North Korea. He didn't want to go to war with China. And Trump was all about the sanctions. Okay, that was how he wanted to deal with these bad countries. Okay, the problem is that, the biggest one is Israel. Iran. Is because it's the biggest problem that Trump didn't want to deal with Iran because now they're kind of free to just do their evil. And so I believe they're going to attack Israel. So basically, what I think then, is like I said before, if we see America burning and Israel burning, you can say that we're out of time. But God's people aren't out of time, but God's enemies are out of time. So that's that story. Okay, so then another prophetic connection in Back to the Future is, so this is from the second movie. And so we have Doc and Marty, they end up going back to 1985, but it's an alternate, an alternate reality than the 1985 that they were used to. And it's kind of interesting because if you watch the clip of that was almost kind of like a prophecy of the Black Lives Matter riots, because it's just sheer chaos. I put in this one picture here on the right where, you have the police car, like, kind of all, in a jumble. There were, shooting and fires and bikers and, and then what's really interesting is you have Biff, in his pleasure paradise. Oh man, you got to go watch the video because, it talks about how, Biff's like the greatest liked man. It's funny because what they say about Biff is something that Trump would say about himself, and so it's interesting because you have like Biff Tower, it's connected to, connected to Trump Tower, because you got Biff's name on the tower, just like you see with the Trump Towers. So definitely very interesting. So let me see, I'm looking for my notes. See if there's anything else I wanted to say about that time frame. Oh yeah, so it's interesting too because Biff says like, I own the police, and so it was kind of interesting. So because we kind of see with like Black Lives Matter, they want to own the police, so basically things aren't operating this the same way, so that is definitely an interesting connection. Oh, and the other thing too about Biff is, so he's got in this alternate reality, he's got a lot of money, okay, just like Trump, and then they talk about him being like the luckiest man in the world, and that's really a picture of Trump because, Trump's been very fortunate, to just, be able to, just have a lot of business, things, work out for him, so that he could just make more money and stuff. So I'm sorry, I'm trying to find my notes, and of course, when you need them, let's see here. Um, so I am not finding them. So what we see is, kind of this sense of lawlessness, and, you know, so so that's definitely the time that we're in, and that comes from Matthew 24, where it says, at that time many will fall away and lawlessness will be increased. So, we definitely see that lawlessness, during the riots. So definitely interesting, and I talked about that was in the second movie, and how the second movie kind of connects to Trump's presidency. Oh, because back here we saw Samson. He ruled for, he judged for 20 years, which could kind of connect to Trump's, Trump, we got like 3 years right now on Trump, but I think they're like the 2 years of him doing, the 666, is really significant. So, but also with Trump too, with the two, because, one of Trump's job was to kind of like cause a division in this country, and we saw too with, remember we had the Cristobal, a hurricane, and how that kind of like went straight down the middle, it went up kind of like along the Mississippi. And so it was interesting because that was, kind of like showing a division in the land. So, anyways, not finding my things. Okay. And then, okay, so this is, let's see. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, okay. So, okay. So we have, so this is my famous picture where we have the sea of Obama and the sea of Trump. Okay, so then I wrote, okay, so under the sea of Trump, I wrote, okay, when he broke the third seal, I heard the third living creature saying, "Come." I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. Okay. So we see with Trump, the buying and the selling with the scales. But also like the false scales. And then, okay, so then let's read about the Revelation verse that connects to Obama's people. It says, okay, and then when he broke the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." I looked, and behold, an ashen horse, and he who sat on it had the name Death, and Hades was following with him. Authority was given to them over a fourth of the earth to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by the wild beasts of the earth. Okay, so that connects to the rioters, the wild beasts of the earth. So definitely I just, let's see here. So I wanted to, just point out that, when you see, Israel burning and America burning, we are out of time, so I definitely think we could, be seeing something, happening really soon. I think we could be expecting the Messiah. I think the Messiah is at the door, and things could happen rather quickly too, So I mean, we saw really just kind of a big, quick changeover. You know, from May 25th with Trump's people were all out partying, for Memorial Day, and then it was like when there was a verse that connects to that too, where they were all out partying and so while they were saying peace and safety, because really that was Trump was really kind of like coronavirus, you'll be fine, that's kind of his attitude. So while he was saying peace and safety, then sudden destruction, because it was like boom, the next day the riots came, destruction, it happened really sudden. um and so that's from First Thessalonians 5, and then it talks about destruction suddenly like labor pains. um so and it says the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night, and I kind of think the coronavirus is like the thief in the night, and even that was something that all of a sudden boom, it was here, and our like all of a sudden our lives were turned upside down. And so I definitely think with the Messiah coming and Israel getting attacked, I think it could happen really suddenly. You know, um, you know, like a thief in the night, and um, so that's where we're at. We are almost out of time. Um, so, um, so that's just a quick little synopsis of, some of the prophecy in Back to the Future. I'd love to, just really, you know, um, hash out more of the prophetical connections in Back to the Future. But I just wanted to make this a short little one to emphasize the out of time aspect of the video. But, maybe during the Messianic movement, era, Messianic era, we could talk about it more. Uh, so that's my video. Thanks so much for tuning in. God bless. Hang in there. Look up for your redemption draws nigh. I think we're going to see the Messiah really soon. So God bless. Thanks for tuning in.